So let's get straight to the first topic of the random rants, which is the topic of talking versus doing. Now, this is an interesting one. Of course it is. That's why I'm talking about it. So talking versus doing. What do I mean by this? So we all know people that are either talkers or they're doers. So the talkers will talk a lot about doing things, but not actually really do much or anything at all. And then there's the doers who don't really talk much, they just do. And maybe they will talk a little bit about what they did after the fact, or maybe they'll announce what they're going to do shortly before the fact. And the talkers will do very little. They will do majority of talking and minority of doing. So this is a interesting subject to me because it kind of gets into the area, the space of, obviously life is not, or very seldom, black and white. We have, shades of gray in between. But often if we take things to the extreme, that makes it either black or white, right? So on the one end, we have what I would consider a helpless victim. And then on the other end, we have what I would consider a empowered creator, right? Kind of like the attitude a helpless victim would have is, oh, life is happening to me. I have no control of anything that happens. I don't control my emotions, my feelings, my actions, anything at all. It just sort of all happens to me and I just have to do it because that's just how it is. And then you have the empowered creator who says life is happening for me, right? Whatever happens in life is something that I can learn from and something that I can potentially improve upon. So I think we as humans, we tend to focus on the negative. We definitely always tend to see the negative things first in life, right? It's like, pick any example, right? You go into a store and you want to go shopping and you're looking for oranges, right? And, you're picking out all the beautiful oranges and then you see it, you're like, oh, this one is, moldy or this one is burst or whatever. And it like springs out to us very apparently and obviously, instead of saying, oh my God, there's like so many beautiful oranges here that I'm taking home with me, right? It's like we as humans, we tend to gravitate towards the negative first. That's the first thing that sort of springs up to us. Not to say that us humans are negative, but it's just the most apparent and obvious thing that we see and take notice of. So talking versus doing. Taking action, doing something, whatever it is, whether that's going to work out or whether that's working on your business or whether that's having a tough conversation with your partner or your parents or whatever the case may be. What's the point? Let's say you need to have a difficult conversation with your parents. What's the point in having a conversation with yourself about the difficult conversation you want to have with your parents. I mean, sure, make a structure, make a plan of what you want to say, and think about what they're going to say. But at the end of the day, deliberating about a certain thing that you want to take action on is not going to get you there. It's not going to do anything for you. It's just going to cause paralysis by analysis. It's going to confuse you. And here's the great thing about taking action, right? It takes away all of the doubt and the confusion. Because let's say you want to try boxing, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I found a boxing gym here. And, oh yeah, I don't know whether I should go because, I could get hurt. I could get my bell rung, and then, I could get a black eye and, what are the people going to say? What are my friends? What are my parents? What are the colleagues at work going to say? So you make up this story in your head by taking inaction, right? You make up all these excuses as to why you can't do it, why you don't want to do it, why you shouldn't do it, blah, 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 right? As opposed to on the other side, let's stick with the example of boxing, right? You say, okay, yep, found a boxing gym and, I really dig boxing. I like watching boxing matches. I like watching MMA matches. I like watching the art of boxing in MMA. And, apart from the fact that, it's very daunting, especially if you're doing something for the first time, and even more so martial arts because, you have that really physical component to it. It removes all doubt because you, as the empowered creator, you take responsibility, you take accountability, and you say, you know what? I don't know what's on the other end of this 1.5 hour boxing class, but I'm going to find out. And it may be hard, it may be confusing, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it because fuck it, why not, right? And so the really cool thing is when you take action, you don't need to talk. You can obviously, announce it, preface it, tell your girlfriend or, your friend or your neighbor, like, hey, sorry, I'll have to meet you 2 hours later because I'm just on my way to boxing class and I'm going to try this out. I'm going to, give it a crack. And, it saves you all the energy of talking and making up stories in your head, making up excuses, why you can't do it. You don't have time, you don't have money, all this thing. I mean, it's easy to find an excuse to not do something, right? But then on the flip side, if you say, you know what, fuck the excuses, it doesn't matter if I'm tired, if I'm broke, maybe even if I'm hurt. You know what I mean? Fuck it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? And then so you take that action, and then you actually realize oh, well, I made all these stories up in my head as to why it couldn't work and why I shouldn't do it, and you basically rationalize why you're talking yourself out of a decision, and then you take the action, and then you kind of ask yourself what was I making such a big deal about? This was actually, yeah, sure, maybe it was hard or maybe it was unpleasant, but after you've done that hard or unpleasant thing, whether it's boxing or having a tough conversation with your parents or whatever it is, starting a business or take your pick, right? You kind of realize I was kind of just playing mind games to myself. There's really just what is there to it? There's just taking action. That doesn't mean you're gonna succeed the first time. I mean, The first time as a baby when you used a fork or a spoon, did you succeed with that? No. Did you succeed the first time tying your shoes when you learned it? Nope. Did you succeed the first time when you tried walking when you were an infant? Nope. So, taking action negates the fact of talking. You just shut the fuck up and you go out and you take your action. I should probably stop swearing, actually. You go out, you take the action, and you actually learn about yourself. You find out that you're not as fragile or as incompetent or weak as you thought you were. Because many of us are just making it up as we go along. You know what I mean? On the flip side, then, if we take no action, we talk a lot about it. Oh, yeah, I found this boxing gym down the road. I really want to try boxing. It's so interesting to me. And then you just talk for months and months and months about wanting to take action, wanting to do something, but not actually doing it. And then where does that leave you? It really doesn't give you anything or do anything for you, because you've just basically, like a dog, just gone around in a circle chasing your own tail, and nothing's become of it. Time has just passed, and if there's one thing we cannot get back, it's time. We can go forward in life, we can make money, we can make new friend relationships, or new romantic relationships, or whatever the case may be, but time is really the only, I'm going to say, substantive thing that we don't get back. You're not going to get back the last 7 months of this year. They've passed, and if you've just sat there thinking about going to boxing, but instead just sat on the couch and rolled joints and, smoked them, and watched a couple of, MMA fights and some series and whatever the case may be, like, you're not going to get that time back, right? And an excuse so often is like, oh, it's too late for me to start. Well, again, it's just mind games that you're playing with yourself, that we play with ourselves. It's an excuse, and I think it serves us all well to actually realize how many excuses we create and put into existence just to justify inaction. I'm not saying this from a high horse. I'm speaking really 100% out of experience. But I had a shift, I had a change a few weeks ago, and I just said, I'm just gonna do it. Like, what am I waiting for? Am I waiting for it to get better or easier? I mean, I'm just getting older. The body is deteriorating more, right? Every day that we're here on Earth, we're moving one step closer to death, right? And who knows when that'll be, right? Obviously, statistically, I'm probably going to live to, 75 or whatever the case may be. But, it may be that when I go shopping later, that I get shot by someone here on the street, or I get run over by a car. No, I don't think that's going to happen. Touch wood. But it may. It may. You may never see your loved ones again. You may never see your girlfriend again. You may never see your parents again. You may never wake up again. So if you knew you were never going to wake up again, or if you knew you only had 3 months to live, would you still be making excuses and taking action? Probably not. Because you know that there's a set time limit to what you can do for the rest of your life if it's only 3 months. And so I guess or I know that when you take action, it's really, really empowering, right? You feel like a different person. You understand, like, hey, I just went to boxing and I never boxed before. And I got punched in the head about 78 times. My head hurts a little bit, but I learned something new. I learned that I can take it. I can take it. And if I just keep showing up for the next 6 months, I'm not going to be the newest one there. I'm not going to be the worst one there. In fact, I'll have made improvements and I will have gotten better. And it's a little bit like in GTA San Andreas, one of my ultimate favorite all-time PC games that I used to play when I was a teenager. You do missions and you unlock new parts of the map, and you can make money and you can change your physique and you can get girlfriends and new cars and all that kind of stuff. But that only happens if you take actions and do the missions, right? And it's kind of the same in life, right? But many of us get stuck in like a certain way of thinking and doing and living. And you can be an example to everyone around you to take action. I mean, how powerful is it if you see someone that maybe you've known for a while and they just change, and that change only happens through action, right? And you can be that person, and I am that person. You know what I mean? Not to say that it's easy. It's hard. It's probably harder than taking inaction in the short term. In the long term, taking inaction definitely is the hard choice, right? But we as humans, we tend to be in the moment. We don't necessarily think too much in advance and far ahead. We like to be comfortable in the moment. And so, I think you can make the choice to surround yourself with people who do more and talk less. But actually, instead of going out and looking for people who take action, the way you can attract more people into your environment who are better role models for you is by being the good role model yourself. So, I think that's the thoughts that I have on talking versus doing. And that's it. Signing off.